I tried all pump-based headphone amplifiers, then I tried fully discrete Class A, B amplifiers, then I tried Class A amplifiers, then over-powerful headphone amplifiers. But today I'll try something new, something that already uses some of the best technology of today and also some of the nicest components, but it has the power of removing all of the drawbacks from your precious headphones, all done in the analog domain. It also has a DAC section on board and also an active preamplifier section that is something quite uncommon in all-in-one devices. It's called Gold Note HP-10 DELUXE, and I'll try it with and without its complementary PSU-10 EVO power supply. It's handcrafted in the heart of Italy, and I believe it has the power of changing the head-fi movement as we know it, and let's talk about that. If you already checked my Gold Note IS-10 video or DS-10 Plus video, then you know exactly how the HP-10 is looking, because it uses absolutely the same case, the same dimensions, the same weight. It's identical. The only difference is that this one is in silver, but of course you can buy it in black if you wish, or naturally in a gold-like color scheme. You know, it's called Gold Note for a reason. I'm not sure you know about this, but Gold Note crafts everything they sell handmade in Italy, from cables, accessories, cases, loudspeakers, amplifiers, DACs, you name it, everything is handmade in Italy, from entry-level devices to their super high-end stuff. Everything is made in there, and I'm pretty sure they are very proud about this, and they should. So yeah, this one and every other HP-10 are handcrafted in the heart of Tuscany in Italy. Even though the HP-10 is part of the entry-level series, not a single bolt or screw was left to chance. This is also one of the slimmest looking units that I have tried around here, so you'll easily integrate it into a tidy looking head-fi setup or maybe into a stereo working as a preamplifier. I also took the liberty of measuring its case temperature after 8 hours of non-stop music playback with a professional Bosch laser thermodetector, and I recorded at the hottest spot 37 degrees Celsius or 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's basically my body temperature. It's very warm. I'm pretty sure it will outlive me because those components are not cooking inside. It should have a very long service life, and this is already a very good starting point. Controlling the HP-10 feels like a walk in the park, but learning everything it has to offer feels a little bit like rocket science. First of all, yeah, that is a touchscreen, and luckily a simple user interface is offered as well. The volume wheel is also disguised as an on-off button and menu navigator. We have 4 headphone jacks, out of which 2 are balanced outputs. Flip it around and you'll see a pair of RCA and XLR inputs and a mirrored symmetry of analog outputs, since yeah, this puppy can also function as an active preamplifier. If you opt for the deluxe version, which I have on hand, then you'll also have a USB Type-C port that will unlock its USB DAC feature. The HP-10 can also be powered by its internal power supply, or you can go overkill and add a PSU-10 EVO as an upgrade path, and more about that in a second. If you're wondering what exactly is the HP-10, its main feature is an over-the-top headphone amplifier built only from discrete components, biased into Class A operation, delivering up to 10 watts per channel, and that is already a lot of power, and Class A bias means that it should drive pretty much everything, but more about that in a minute. But what makes it truly unique in this sea of copy-paste fully discrete amplifiers is that it has some very clever sound enhancements, all working in the analog domain. And no, I'm not talking about a gain setting or maybe a Class A bias that you can play with, but so much more, from crossfeed, damping factor, Harman balance, clarity, depth. Everything is there for you to explore. They even compiled a PDF file which includes more than 120 headphones with the recommended settings specifically chosen for the best sound. I was very skeptical at first, but after trying the Sennheiser HD800S with the recommended settings, I was simply blown away by the sound, and I don't remember ever hearing the HP-10 on any other solid-state headphone amplifier sounding so organic, so bass heavy, I might say. Even the mid-range was blooming with life, and the treble was no longer peaking in that 6 to 8 kilohertz. It was simply transforming into a very different version of the HP-10 that I knew for such a long time. Not even Sennheiser's HDVD 800 DAC and headphone amplifier, specifically designed for the HD-800 and HD-800S, didn't sound as open, as organic, as cohesive, and as expansive as they did on the HP-10, let alone as dynamic and, dare I say, overwhelmingly addictive. And once you choose a high damping factor and you change the crossfeed from 0 to 1 or 2, then I kid you not, you can transform the HD-800S into bass cannons, something that not even overkill tube-based amplifiers are capable of. All of this hocus pocus is somehow transcending the HD-800S into something else, into a better version of themselves, and all of that is working in the analog domain, so without inducing any artifacts usually found on DSP-equipped units. The HP-10 DELUXE also has a DAC section on board. It's the AKM AK4493 from Asahi Kasei Micro Devices that uses Velvet Sound technology. And while this is not a top-tier DAC chip, the components that are surrounding it are very good. And last but not least, a functional active preamplifier stage powers the RCA and XLR output. And if you are using powered speakers or power amplifiers as I do, then I recommend using its preamp stage because you might get surprised by the result. As I have explained, with most headphone amps we get a gain setting, maybe some Class A bias settings or something like that, but with the HP-10 we have so much more. You can influence its tonality, you can change its frequency response, you can play with its clarity, with depth, with sound stage, and also with dynamics. And yes, this is a very different type of headphone amplifier. And at first I believe that the damping settings, the damping factor will have a major impact and it will be a game changer. And it definitely changes quite a bit. But after playing with all of those settings, I believe that the crossfeed options rock my world so much harder because it's the setting that can make your headphones much harder slumming in the bass and adding so much more energy in the lowest octaves. The super flat option turns off every enhancement and lets it work as a pure headphone amplifier without altering the signal in any way. And when doing headphone measurements, I believe that this is the only way you should use the HP-10. However, don't get this idea that it will sound super flat or boring in this option, because don't forget we're still dealing with a fully discrete headphone amplifier biased into Class A operation that outputs 10 watts of power per channel. So it was still blooming with emotions, and no matter how hard I tried pushing it to its limits, it was efficiently driving most of my headphones except for one. As a general rule of thumb, amplifiers that do not use negative feedback or any kind of noise shaping techniques, they won't be really noise-free with ultra-sensitive IEMs like this, for example, and it's the other way around. The amplifiers that use lots of negative feedback and any kind of noise-shaping technique will be dead silent with such lows. And also all pump-based amplifiers, they have a much shorter signal path, about 2 times shorter compared to fully discrete amplifiers, so they have the potential of being cleaner and having a lower noise floor compared to fully discrete amplifiers. Nonetheless, I wanted to know how these will sound on the HP-10, so I connected the FX17 and also the FA19 from FiO directly on that 4.4mm headphone jack on the HP-10. I moved to low gain, and there was a barely audible hiss playing in the background. It was barely there, but I could hear it with music on pause. When I was playing back the music, I couldn't hear it anymore because it was very low, but it's definitely there when the music is on pause, so you should know about this. Even on the low gain, I could hear some white noise passing through, but again, I'm reminding you that once you play your music, there is no way you can hear that noise floor anymore, so I believe it's not a super IEM friendly amplifier, but at the same time 10 watts and IEMs, it's something that I don't recommend to use. It was made mostly for full-sized headphones, planar or dynamic headphones. Engaging high gain, of course, pushing more power towards the IEMs further increase the noise floor, suggesting that high gain should be used only with big planars and big dynamic headphones. So yeah, please use it mostly with desktop headphones. Power-wise, there is no need to go through my entire headphone collection, that won't be necessary. However, I will mention that the highest volume I could reach for a couple of seconds, maybe for a minute or two, with the Headphone Amplifier unveiled was 60 out of 99 steps available, but mind you, just for a few seconds, because the SPL was already reaching 100 dB and dynamic peaks were reaching 110 dB. So yeah, it has a lot of power on board. With the HD800S, I could barely arrive at around 50 out of 100, and also with the T+A, I could never reach 50 out of 100. So clearly it has a ton of power and a ton of headroom, almost unlimited with all of these headphones. So if you want to drive almost everything, this is a very good headphone amplifier. Despite listening to music at much lower volumes compared to what I just mentioned to you, 60 on this and 50 on this, I also need to test the limits of the headphone amplifiers that are coming for review, and this is where I observed that with the original Headphone Amplifier, not these ones, at around 65 volume levels or higher, it was gently distorting the bass region. So it was gently clipping the bass, it was arriving at its upper power limits. Clearly the current delivery was limited in there, and the Susvara was just clipping the HP-10. So if you want to listen to super high volumes, the Headphone Susvara is out of the question, including the Mod House tungstens. Those will be clipping as well, but if you listen to music at 90 dB or lower, then Susvara will work just fine. But mind you, the bass will be gently pressing the brakes and it will not be as clean as it is on the rest of these headphones. So I believe it has the power of driving everything except for super hard to drive loads like the Susvara, Mod House tungstens and a few others as well. The Susvara unveiled were no longer heavily distorting, these were not clipping because I was not reaching at such super high volumes. They already were playing more like speakers at 60 out of 99 steps available, so you can use these pretty easily, sounding snappy and, dare I say, impactful, precisely as they do on top tier headphone amplifiers. If you are wondering if the PSU-10 EVO is mandatory to be used with the HP-10, let me tell you this. After using it with the HP-10 for a couple of hours, I've heard many things, but if I would summarize everything in just one single word, then that would be dynamics. So with the PSU-10 EVO in place, the sound is a little bit bolder, it's thicker, it's juicier, the bass gets stronger and it becomes more layered, as if you can dissect the bass notes much easier this time around. We also get a somewhat denser and a purer mid-range delivery, and all while removing all of the treble glare and listening fatigue. This change in tonality and dynamics wasn't felt only via headphones but also via loudspeakers, adding additional air all around the room and further decompressing the sound in a way. The tiniest details were now somehow easier to spot and I could easier focus on things playing in the background. The sound stage improved slightly as well, but sound transparency was the one that made me wonder if it's on par with my own preamplifier, and let's talk about that. I removed my Chord Ultima Pre 2 and I inserted the Gold Note Duo, and after playing the same tunes that I've heard via headphones, I arrived at a conclusion. I could barely reach that 30 volume position out of 99 steps available, so a clear sign that I'm already dealing with an active preamplifier stage. With a passive one, I arrive at around 70 out of 100, so again, this is a very good sign because we have an active preamplifier stage. I also realized that all of the sound enhancements that work via headphones will be working via its RCA and XLR outputs. So if you want, you can change its frequency response, you can play a little bit with the sound's depth, with the sound stage, with tonality, with dynamics. All of that is working via its XLR and RCA output, including the gain setting. And if you are using over powerful amplifiers, then I recommend to you using the low gain setting position. After listening to music for about 2 hours, it was hard to admit it, but clearly the HP-10 was sweeter sounding in the mid-range. It was pushing all of that vocal performance a little bit closer to me, and also there was more energy in the mid-bass. It was definitely changing a little bit. My own preamp is not there when the music is playing. It's pretty much the most transparent and the most detailed preamplifier that I have heard in my life. It's simply outstanding if you want the most resolving sound out there. But the HP-10 is a little bit different and is definitely livelier sounding in this regard. It added a higher mass in the bass while gently bringing forward the vocals closer to my listening spot. As it was the case via headphones, it single-handedly removed all of the sharpness and listening fatigue, and more importantly, dynamics when never pressing the brakes. This is an exceptional sounding preamplifier, and I mean it, and I presume it will do some wonders in hi-fi systems that use some small to medium-sized bookshelf speakers that cannot bring the thunder in the bass or awaken that mid-range purity. I was also super curious about its DAC performance, so I removed my Rockner reference signature DAC, I connected a USB Type-C cable to the HP-10, and I started listening to music via headphones. An hour passed and I started wondering why it's not lacking finesse and why the resolution is not going down as much as I have expected it to do. The resolution didn't drop considerably, and more importantly, the sound remained as effortless and as glare-free as it is on the Rockner. I remember trying the Gold Note DS10 Plus a couple of years ago. It was an amazing sounding DAC and it was very organic and effortless and quite big sounding. And to my surprise, the DS10 Plus and DS10 EVO use exactly the same chip as the HP-10 does. So I believe this DAC section was not overlooked at all on the HP-10. It actually sounds pretty impressive, and here I'd say that it's on the same level with DACs costing somewhere in between $1,500 and $2,000 US. The resolution and dynamic range were pretty high on this one, and dynamic peaks never felt muted. The ugly digitals never appeared in my tracks and listening fatigue never settled in. We can now draw some meaningful conclusions, and all of the signs are pointing towards the fact that I'm dealing with a great sounding DAC section. The only gripe I have with this unit is that on the back panel we don't have lots of space, so we have just one single digital input, and that is USB Type-C, but I would like to have some additional like optical, coaxial, maybe AC or I2S. Now let's discuss its tonality and then dynamics. But discussing its tonality is almost like a mission impossible, because all of those sound enhancements can change its tonality in quite a big way. You can play with that treble, with the mid-range, with the bass. You can make it very, very different sounding in the tonality, and if you put two HP-10 near each other and we have different settings, they will sound very different. Go with a higher damping factor and you can hear that there is more bass emanating from your headphones. Play with that crossfeed option, and again there is a little bit more live oozing from the bass region with a fuller bodied sound everywhere else. Play with the Harman curves and you'll easily alter its voicing once again, almost to the point of unrecognizable. And of course you can enhance its clarity and the sound depth, and even the treble can go up and down depending on the preference. Nonetheless, the HP-10 has a voice of its own, and it's a voice that I have already experienced a long time ago with that DS10 Plus back in the day. It goes with the classic transistor sound biased into Class A operation, so the effortlessness and with ease with which it dictates driver movements are the first thing you'll observe on the HP-10. Also, all those over-sharpness effects and all those strong leading edges are no longer there on the HP-10, like you might observe on entry-level or mid-level Chi-Fi amplifiers. This one lets you relax your thoughts. It's much smoother and easier going this time around. Like, it lets your music pour much easier into your eardrums, It's more about relaxing your senses and letting the music do its own thing. It's more like it disappears from the acoustic chain and lets your DAC and headphones shine the most. Although it's not badly influencing the resolution that is coming from your source if you are bypassing its internal DAC section on the micro scale or on the macro scale, the thing that you'll feel it's boosting will be the inner textures. You'll immediately realize that this instrument is made out of wood. That metallic shimmer is coming from a bronze cymbal that sounds quite natural, and also the vocals will feel more real and not played back somewhere in the past. A certain sweetness and refinement surrounds the music, an aura that always remains on the HP-10 regardless of the setting you choose to engage. And I'm not sure if this is a MOSFET based amplifier and how highly it was biased into Class A operation, but it feels that way. Over the years, I've learned that there are multiple tricks to improve the resolution of an amplifier, headphone amplifier, power amplifier, integrated amplifier, at the cost of sounding less natural and more artificial. And there was a time in my life when I wanted to have the most resolving, the most neutral, the most dead neutral, the most clinical sounding amplifier out there, forgetting that the music was never about that. It was about conveying emotions, about trying to understand what the artist intended to express through the power of music. Luckily, I'm no longer there and I'm no longer listening with my brain, but I'm listening with my heart, and since then the sound has getting better and better and I'm getting more emotional every single time I'm listening to music. The HP-10 is the kind of amplifier that is not trying to over-sharpen the sound, it's not boosting the leading edges, it leaves it be untouched. It's not boosting the upper treble in any way, again, it leaves it untouched. It's not trying to change really anything, and it's not trying hard to impress you with its resolving abilities, although this is a very resolving and clean sounding headphone amplifier. It is indeed transparent sounding to its core, and it's crisp, sometimes even biting on several occasions, but it's never making me uncomfortable about it. It's very much like what I'm getting from the Cain Soul 170 HA and also Felix Audio NV Performance Edition, but it's ever so slightly clearer and more resolving compared to those two. There is a little bit more information at the bottom in the sub bass and some extra tiny details at the very top in the upper treble, but all of this is delivered in an easy to understand manner that we tend to call music. So if you want, you can make it quite neutral, but no matter what you do, it will never be clinical sounding or harsh, even after making some drastic adjustments to all of its settings. In conclusion, I specifically didn't compare it with a couple of headphone amplifiers, and I have some reasons to back that up. Reason number one is that it cannot be compared feature-wise with any other solid-state amplifier, especially in this 2,000 to 3,000 US dollar range. The sound enhancements are much more usable and can have a massive impact on the sound. There isn't a single universal setting that works with every headphone out there. You need to find the best sound for every headphone individually and then save the preset for future use. Pardon me if I'm wrong, but I do not know anything remotely similar. Not only these sound enhancements are turning your headphones into better version of themselves, but also the DAC section and the preamp section were not overlooked, but carefully selected to match the performance of its excellent headphone amplifier section. Sure, it's maybe not the most resolving DAC and preamp out there, but honestly, I didn't care about that part so much because it sounded sublime as a DAC amp combo or as a standalone preamplifier. And the last reason is that I don't remember testing a solid-state amplifier that had so much character to it. The Ilium AM23R and also the Live HP-2A are quite similar in this regard, also sounded quite organic, quite easygoing and also hard slamming in the bass, but neither offer a DAC option or a Bluetooth receiver option, and the more I searched for a contender, the more I realized that the HP-10 DELUXE is looking better and better with every passing day. Complaints: a slight white noise with ultra-sensitive IEMs and also with ultra-sensitive tweeters. This is my only complaint that I had with this one. And apart from this, I do hope that many headphone amplifier builders will finally understand that we no longer want just an impressive component selection, a fully discrete amp stage biased into class A operation. We want a little bit more than that, and this is where the gold note HP-10 feels different and way more appealing. For this and many other reasons, my second highly impressive award for a headphone amplifier in 2025 goes to the gold note HP-10 DELUXE. Before you go, a much longer HP-10 review can be found in the description box below, containing about 3 times the information of this video. Please consider liking, disliking, maybe subscribing to this channel if you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next week with a couple of headphone reviews. Have a nice weekend, everyone!